1970's, Nixon and Ford. So, Richard Nixon had an appeal to middle America. He calls them the silent majority. These were white Americans who didn't criticize the government. One of the keys to Nixon's victory was his Southern support. He used his Southern strategy to take away votes from his rival Hubert Humphrey. This is an important case that comes along soon after he's elected. 1971 Swan versus Charlotte Mecklenburg counties, and it basically said counties could use busing as a way to integrate schools and have a racial mix in all schools. In other words, it forced, and I know it says it's misspelled, but it's forced busing. So changes under Nixon. Nixon would dismantle the old programs he deemed as having too much federal control. That would be the New Deal and Great Society. He wanted to give more power back to state and local governments. Keep in mind, Nixon's election is one of the largest comebacks of political comebacks of the 20th century because he was out of politics. He had served as a congressman, vice president. He lost the closest election up to that time in California for governor, and he was out of politics, and he came back and he won the 68th election to be president. Not to mention he lost the 1960 presidential election to Kennedy. So his program's called New Federalism. His argument was that to let the agencies that were closest to the citizens be given the opportunity to address their issues. You will see this again in 2009, 2010 with President Obama's Race to the Top money or Common Core money. He does a very similar thing to what we in the 1970s called New Federalism. So changes under Nixon. Among these changes, Nixon developed the idea of revenue sharing, in which states and local governments are granted access to federal funds. Although the idea was to grant states more power, it had the opposite effect. As states became more dependent on federal funding, they were forced to accept new government conditions for funding. Despite all of his changes, Nixon was recalled best for not as much for his domestic policy, but he's remembered for his foreign policy. So Nixon was always a foreign policy expert, even when he was vice president. And as you see, he's very concerned with America's position on a global scale. In a controversial move, he selects Henry Kissinger as his national security advisor. Kissinger was a former Harvard professor. Kissinger is a Jew. He had fled Nazi Germany as a child to the United States. Although when he took office, Kissinger was outranked, he soon would assume most of the White House's power to help shape Nixon's foreign policy. Détente. What this is, Nixon wanted to find an exit strategy to Vietnam and bring an end to the bipolar world of communist versus non-communist nations. So he created an approach called détente, which means to relax tensions, and basically he's going to talk to communist nations. Remember, this would be the first time since pre-World War II we had done this. 21 years. He visits China first. Then he goes to Russia. The effects of the Pentagon Papers that come out at the beginning of the Nixon administration. Basically, Nixon felt under attack from the media and the liberals, and he would form a group to protect his administration's affairs. This group was called the Plumbers. The Plumbers' job was to stop all leaks to the public of classified information, because remember, the Pentagon Papers were leaked to the public. Daniel Ellsberg. The Plumbers would transform into CREEP. and eventually engage in illegal activities. CREEP is an acronym for Committee to Re-elect the President. So, as you see, just as Roosevelt did in 1939, Eisenhower, JFK, Lyndon Johnson, all of these men had recordings in the Oval Office. They start recording their conversations. So Nixon, what he does is he actually puts in the latest technology into the White House, into the Oval Office, so he can record all of his meetings. And he does so when he gets out of office, he'll have these recordings to write a memoir, which is what presidents do to this day. Overshadowed by one event, the Watergate Scandal. The scandal originated from the Nixon administration's attempt to cover up involvement in a break-in to the Watergate Hotel. As you see, the Watergate Hotel housed the Democratic National Headquarters. As the election loomed in 1972, Nixon was seeking every advantage he could because he knew this was going to be his last political campaign, so he wanted to know anything about what the Democrats had planned to use against him. And he wants a landslide victory, especially because he lost that 1960 election. And he won a very close election in 1968. So even though his ratings were really good and he was a popular president with the majority of Americans, he was still unpopular from the Vietnam War, and so he wanted to see what they were going to use against him. The break-in basically a break into the Democratic National Headquarters twice, and they get caught the second time. Nixon was so consumed with opponents, he even compiled an enemies list, and it was filled with politicians, media, anybody who was considered a threat to his presidency. Nixon claimed executive privilege with these conversations, and he thought that these conversations in the Oval Office and his blacklist or enemies list should be held private. As word got out about the break-in, it was discovered that one of the members involved was not an ex-CIA agent, but he was an agent working for the re-election group CREEP. As questions continued, documents were burned, false testimony was given, provided to investigators. While he may not have ordered the break-in, Nixon did order the CIA to stop the FBI investigation. So, this case goes before the Supreme Court in 1974. It's Nixon v. the U.S. The president says, I do not have to give out my audio tapes of any conversations because they are mine. He claims executive privilege. So, as you see, the Supreme Court says no. You do not have complete executive privilege. You can't claim executive privilege when covering up a crime. So, when the tapes are released, and when the tapes were originally released, there is a 18-minute gap in them that's been blanked out. We later get the 18 minutes filled in with the original tape, and we find out he did actually cover up and knew about the break-ins and all of this stuff. His justification was that the investigation would threaten national security. The White House claimed it was third-party break-in. The strategy worked. Most Americans believed Nixon early on. Nixon would even go on to be reelected. However, in 1973, the wheels fall off, and in 1974, with the Supreme Court case coming out, and we find out about all the stuff that was on these tapes. As you see, going through 1973 here again, Nixon's vice president, after he's reelected, is forced to resign because he was taking bribes as governor of Maryland. That's Spiro Agnew. He's forced to resign, and he does go to prison. So Nixon appoints a vice president, and that would be Gerald Ford, named as vice president. So as you see, Nixon tapes his conversations. We went through this, taped his conversations in the White House. Once the committee got hold of the unedited tapes, it's over for Nixon. The White House voted to impeach Nixon on 3 federal crimes of misconduct. Rather than be impeached and going through this and likely not having the votes, and he would have probably been removed from office, he resigned on August 8th, 1974. This is a picture of his resignation. Here he is leaving. Nixon's resignation will make Ford the president of the United States. President Gerald Ford will be the only president in U.S. history not to be elected by the people. He was actually appointed president. So he never faced an election until 1976. So Ford will urge America to put Watergate behind them. However, the effects of the scandal will have a long-lasting effect. So he avoids the effects of Watergate. He avoids impeachment or charging him with presidential misconduct. Ethics in Government Act is required to require the financial disclosure of all public officials. Some more effects. Congress passes laws due to this scandal. The Privacy Act of 1974 tells you that Americans can inspect government files on them. Budget Act of 1974, President has to account for all money spent. Nixon believed to have spent millions in government money on personal properties and evaded taxes of over $400,000. There was one year he's caught for this, and he had paid less than $1,000 in income taxes in 71, I believe. Election Campaign Act, limited campaign contribution, eliminated foreign donations, scandal, utterly destroyed Nixon's reputation. He was called Tricky Dick in 1946 because of election trickery by a female he had run against. All of his achievements were forgotten. People remember him for Watergate, and it's really sad because he really did do some good things. He created the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, but most people forget that stuff. Undermined America's confidence in government. Was Nixon the exception to the rule of political system? You know, the press turned from hiding information on JFK to seeking out scandals. Confidence and idealism of the 1960s was replaced with cynicism and doubt of the 1970s. The Frost-Nixon. This was the Frost-Nixon interview. Is a famous interview. They actually made a movie about it. But basically, in this interview, David Frost sits down at length with President Nixon in 1977, 78, and talks with him. And Nixon actually will admit to the crimes. And I think it's the very last section, the 6th part. So, President Ford. Most Americans consider Ford to be a decent and honest man. He's very bland. He's not really exciting or dynamic of a president. He makes the famous statement, he's a Ford, not a Lincoln. He will be the only president to serve that has won a national championship in college athletics. And his championship he was the center for the University of Michigan, I think in 1950 or 51 when they won the national championship. His approval ratings will drop because he pardons Nixon from the investigation. He pardons him and says, we must move on. But when he did this, his approval ratings went from 71% to 50%. Ford had to inherit the inflation rising cost of goods from the Nixon era. Then there's a new issue of stagflation where costs go up and the economy goes nowhere. He attempts to revive the economy by keeping taxes low, cut government spending, and balance the budget. His foreign policy, as you see, his only major event was the Helsinki Accords. In these accords, these were agreements that made with the Soviets about Europe. They agreed to work with one another. With the economy failing, rising inflation and unemployment, political turmoil around the world, Americans would turn to a new president in 1976. So here's some effects of the Yom Kippur War of 1971 and 1973, and it will cause our first gas shortage in 1973. Here's OPEC member nations. We are complete.